Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din Gala, honoring Rabbi Steve Einstein. Rabbi Einstein has contributed his creativity and vision to this organization as an extension of his work welcoming and teaching people interested in Judaism and those who seek conversion. My name is Michelle Masagia. I am a rabbi at Temple Israel of Hollywood in Los Angeles, and I stepped into Rabbi Steve's shoes as Sagan Rosh Beit Din. Now I'm Sagan M. Beit Din, the decisor from a reform perspective on issues related to conversion. Just a little housekeeping, everyone's speakers should be muted. You can chat amongst your friends. You can choose between speaker view or gallery view, it's your choice. This afternoon, we recognize 50 years of Rabbi Steve's work, and I would like to chant Shechianu in honor of this moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Teaching has been at the heart of Rabbi Steve's work. So let's learn from one of his former students about what it's like to be in one of his classes.
I'm Muriel Dance, the Executive Director of the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din. The Beit Din was founded in 2002 based on the premise that conversion to Judaism should be a meaningful spiritual experience that transcends denominations. The conservative, reform, reconstructionist, and trans-denominational movements endorse and support this organization. We are guided by a professional rabbinate who welcomes our candidates with gentleness and sensitivity. This is an organization that I am passionately committed to.
Hello, my name is Dr. Crenshaw Yupa. As one of 650 individuals to have converted through this community, I am deeply appreciative of the support I've received pre- and post-conversion. The personal phone calls, the emails, access to virtual learning, and connection with other Jews of color have been extremely instrumental in my journey.
And even just moments of sitting in Shabbat services and being able to look around and think like, wow, like I get to be a part of this amazing, awesome culture, religion, and I get to share this with people every single day. And it's thanks in part to Sandra Caplan Beit Din and all the support and love that they gave me as I was going through this.
I am grateful to be a part of this organization, known for its inclusive and loving spirit, opening arms and hearts to all, and providing the education and nurturing and guidance to those we serve.
And the idea here is to support people who want to know more, do more, test out the waters, try out a few things, fill in the gaps, and be together with other people who feel the same way. So I hope you will be one of those people. I look forward to meeting you, and I bless you as we go on this journey together.
We welcome you to explore conversion to Judaism in Southern California.
Okay, so I first met Rabbi Einstein in 1983 when I enrolled in his Introduction to Judaism class, and we've pretty much been stuck together ever since then. I became a member of his synagogue, he married my husband and I, he named our children, he officiated at their B'nai Mitzvah and their confirmations, and just most recently he officiated at our oldest daughter's wedding. So we've been very close ever since that first time we met. In spite of the fact that I had absolutely no intention of converting, of course I did. I took the class, and at the end of the 18-week session, I had grown to not only witness his love of Judaism, but experience some of it as my own. I had started attending classes at the synagogue. I started attending services at the synagogue. I made friends at the synagogue. And next thing you know, about a year and a half later, I actually converted. After a lot of thought and additional education, I had to decide that I did in fact want to lead a Jewish life, which meant, finding a Jewish guy. So I did. I got very involved with synagogue life, serving on the board for about 20 years, ultimately as president. I became the director of education for our religious school. I became very active in the local Jewish community for the Bureau of Jewish Education and the Jewish Federation for a while. So my life kind of, in a minuscule way, mirrors what he exhibited during that class. So he kind of showed me his love of Judaism and what he did with it, and I tried to emulate that on a much lower scale, of course. He's still like the Energizer Bunny, but I did it on a much lower scale than he did. But our life is a very Jewish lifestyle, a very Reformed Jewish lifestyle, liberal lifestyle. We have Shabbat every Friday night still. So it's been a rich religious life choice for me, and ultimately my husband and my 2 children. So it was the right decision. It was, as he would say, a beshert that we met on that day when I decided to do a little investigating.
So fabulous. What you did, Rabbi Steve, with Pam shows that it is not just about one person converting, but you changed an entire world and her trajectory in the world. Steve's commitment, your commitment to teaching extended to your writing. And Rabbi Steve and Lydia Kukoff gathered a team of rabbis and educators who developed a national curriculum, Introduction to Judaism. And together they wrote Every Person's Guide to Judaism. So I'm excited now to welcome Lydia Kukoff, founding director of UAHC CCAR Commission on Reform Jewish Outreach, and author of another essential book, Choosing Judaism, to share her stories about Rabbi Steve. And Lydia will be followed by Arlene Chernow, our Gala co-chair, who met Steve during his national work on the Outreach Commission. We'll also hear tributes from Outreach colleagues Vicky Farhi and Drew Greenwood.
Dearest Steve, I'm thinking back to the late 70s and to a very different Jewish landscape. There was no outreach program then. Conversion was a topic not publicly discussed. I converted in the early 60s, and in the years since, I had often reflected on my experience and thought about what would have been helpful to me at the time. In 1978, I graduated from HUC, and I thought, now's the time. So I met with Rabbi Irv Herman of blessed memory, the UAHC regional director, and said it really would be a good thing to create post-conversion support groups for recent converts. The term Jews by choice would come later. He said, go for it. I did, but I soon realized that the whole course of study leading to conversion needed to be completely reimagined. Huge task. Who could I do it with? Now, I had recently taken a Mishnah seminar with Rabbi Samson Hirsch Levy of blessed memory. There were maybe 9 people in it. When thinking of my potential partner for redoing intro, suddenly this face from the Mishnah class popped into my mind. Steve Einstein, a person I did not know at all. But there was just something about him. You know what I mean. So I met with Steve, anticipating that I would have to do a big selling job, an unknown person proposing a large task to an already busy rabbi. I started in, and Steve immediately interrupted me with, yes, I never did get to the end of my spiel. So Rabbi Levi of blessed memory was our shadchan, our matchmaker, beshert, destined. Steve and I assembled a talented team of rabbis and educators who met one day a week, their day off, for months, pro bono, sheku kaf, and together we all created the Introduction to Judaism curriculum. It was a marvelous time. We lunched on what came to be known as curriculum tuna salad. The curriculum was innovative, integrating the philosophical and the theological with the practical, enabling learners to think and do Jewish. It was about owning Judaism, and for all of us who created it, it was a labor of love. And when we finished it, Steve and I were very sad. So we had to continue with something else, which became Every Person's Guide to Judaism. Steve and I met every week for a very long time chronologically, which didn't feel very long. 1 week at the Einsteins, 1 week at the Kukafs. We literally wrote every word together. In the process, we came to know each other's spouses, and here a shout out to Robin for the support she provided for the book. And we watched our children grow. And here we are, almost 40 years later, on opposite coasts, yet the bond endures. Steve's love of the Jewish people and his enduring commitment to those who choose to join our people is what we celebrate here today. We celebrate what so much of his life's work has been. The vision of recreating Abraham and Sarah's tent, open on all four sides, welcoming all who desire to enter. Steve's qualities, his innate goodness, his intelligence, his modesty, his integrity, always shine through, as apparent to all of us here today as they were to me 40 years ago in Rabbi Levy's Mishnah class. Our rabbis teach that when someone brings a person into the Jewish people, it is as if he gave birth to that person. Steve, you are the parent of myriads. May you continue ad mea ve'esrim, 120 years at least. I love you, dear friend.
Okay, well, my name is Arlene Chernow, and for 25 years, I was blessed to be what was known at the time as the Regional Outreach Director, meaning I worked with congregations in the Pacific Southwest to bring the ideas of inclusion of interfaith couples and Jews by choice to their congregations. It was in that capacity that I worked with the members of the National Outreach staff and the other regional directors. It's hard to imagine at this point, but 37 years ago, Reformed Jewish outreach was absolutely cutting edge. Not everybody in the Reformed Jewish community or the larger community was comfortable with it. The outreach staff was the most incredibly collaborative group of people I have ever known in my life. When one of us on the staff would make a presentation of new material, there was this sense of joy that each of us had in each other's success. Steve was the co-chair of the CCAR Joint Commission on Outreach, and it was his support and his encouragement that made it possible for each of us to be so successful in our own regions. Steve and I took an instant liking to each other, but little did I know on that day that it would become a lifelong friendship, and that we would add our spouses, my husband Eli and Robin, and Larry and Carol Goldmark, to this wonderful friendship, and that we would share all of the highs and lows of all of these years together.
I think that one of the key things I learned from Rabbi Steve was there was no time frame for someone to be ready to actually join the Jewish people. and that our role was to make sure that the gates were always open and the welcome was always there, so that when someone was ready to explore their place with the Jewish people, there was someone there to greet them full-heartedly.
One of the things that I'm most proud of that we were able to do in outreach was to create the Outreach Fellows program. This was a program that people came from all over the country, to lay people, to learn about conversion, to learn deeply about conversion, and to learn how to bring people close, how to be ambassadors. And Rabbi Einstein was instrumental in both creating that program and then creating the experience for people as they came into the program. His welcome to Cincinnati was infectious. Always we went to graders. Thank you for that. And he created services that were deeply meaningful and held people close. He sat with people during breaks. He, of course, taught, and really gave the experience the depth and the compassion and the joy that we hoped it would have.
Yes, in case anyone didn't know, Grader's is amazing ice cream. And Rabbi Steve, it's amazing to hear how both Lydia and Arlene reflected on lifelong relationships with you, and also the tuna, the curriculum tuna salad. Interesting that food keeps on coming up. Next, I'm honored to introduce Rabbi Dr. David Ellenson and two more of Steve's former students, Nancy Danger and Jewel Stein. David Ellenson is best known as Chancellor Emeritus of Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. He possesses a brilliant mind, a depth and breadth of learning. He's a masterful teacher and a kind neshama. His expertise on halakha of conversion in Israel and the diaspora has influenced the training of rabbis who have an interest in conversion. Rabbi Ellenson is beloved by his colleagues and his students.
I want to really thank Rabbi Masagie for the lovely introduction. Tonight, I will not, Stephen and Robin, be giving a shiur on Hilchot Gerut in any way. What I really want to do tonight is to pay tribute to you, Stephen, for all you have done. I first met Rabbi Einstein in '79. I had just been appointed to the HUC faculty, and you, Steve, were a young rabbi who studied, as Lydia mentioned, weekly with a group of colleagues under the tutelage of our beloved teacher, Rabbi Samson Levy. From the start, I could witness your extraordinary love of Torah, your mastery of the Masorah, the textual traditions and customs of the Jewish people marked your soul. Your intellect was sharp and intense. However, this intellect and love of learning was, if anything, not only matched, but surpassed by your sweetness of your very soul. You, Stephen, had a warmth and kindness about you, and your love for people shone from the very depths of your neshama. The love and respect I had for you then has only deepened over these past 40 years as I've witnessed your career of service and care for your congregation, our Jewish community, the totality of the Jewish people, and the larger world. It is tonight my zechut, my privilege, to pay tribute to you as the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din, a communal rabbinical court founded initially by our teachers and friends, Rabbi Elliot Dorff and Rabbi Richard Levy Zal, honors you, Stephen, for your years of service, and for the central role you have played, the model you have provided for all of us in welcoming hundreds, if not thousands of persons into the Jewish community, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, under the sheltering wings of God's presence. You, Stephen, have obeyed the command of God, of whom it is said, Adonai Ohev et Gerim, God loves the proselyte. And you have followed the example of Avraham Avinu, our patriarch Abraham, who, as our tradition teaches, was a Megayer Gerim, a maker of converts. And for all of that, and for the model you have provided of an inclusive and welcoming community, the role you played at Hebrew Union College, the role you played with Arlene and Lydia at a time when individuals and our community was not as welcoming as it is now. We pay such tribute to you on this evening, Stephen, and thank you for your 5 decades of service. You have done this and been so successful in facilitating the entry of so many into the Jewish faith and people, because for a lifetime you have embraced the dictum of the Midrash in Shir HaShirim, in the Song of Songs, that states that one who teaches Torah should make their words and deeds as sweet and as pleasant as chalav udvash, as milk and honey. No one embodies these words from the Midrash more than you, my friend, and my teacher, my Rabbi, Stephen Einstein. And it gives me the greatest pleasure to offer you, on behalf of our entire community, my warmest words of Mazel Tov as we celebrate you tonight. The LA Jewish community and the entire Jewish world have been sanctified, Stephen, by your leadership. You have always also been accompanied by your beloved Robin, who sits by you tonight. And both of you have provided then for more than 4 decades this quality of service to our people. And it is an honor to salute you, Stephen, and your beautiful, beautiful and beloved bride tonight, Robin, as we salute you both on this occasion. As Chancellor Emeritus of the College Institute, I would add that you possess every quality, Stephen, that we cherish and hope for in a rabbi as we educate our students at Hebrew Union College. You are Marbitz Torah, a teacher of Torah who lovingly instructs all, as we've heard tonight, with the teachings and values of our tradition. You are a chaver, a friend. You were always present, and you have taught us in times of distress and pain, as well as joy and celebration, with a personality, with a persona that is always warm and caring. And as a chacham, as a wise and insightful counselor, you've always been able, Stephen, to provide appropriate guidance and counsel that springs mitoch libecha, from the very depths of your heart and your wonderful, wonderfully sweet neshama. And this comes from you, not only from your knowledge and mind, but from the very depths of your being. Ashrenu, happy are we that you have been our roeh, our shepherd, our model, our guide throughout your career, and you have devoted your being to this communal bet din. May God continue to shower Yishlach bracha v'hatzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadecha. May God continue to shower blessing and success on all the worthy deeds of your hand. And may you and Robin enjoy the blessings of this new chapter in your life. Mazel tov, Stephen. It is such a joy to celebrate you tonight.
He just has such a compassion and such a willingness to put himself in positions that will help to bring about tikkun olam. He's I think he very much wants to express that to others, and he wants to teach others how to be that kind of person in the world.
Everything I do now is related to Rabbi Einstein. I mean, our whole life has been, you know, a Jewish journey. What I know about Rabbi Einstein is that the way he teaches, the way he leads the congregation is not just with his heart, but with his all-encompassing soul. He is the most soulful man I know. And you can see it. He just resonates with his speaking, the beauty of the religion, the beauty of himself as a person. And that is what drew my husband and I to him and his congregation. You know, our Jewish life, millions of pictures of lighting menorahs and lighting candles and all of these things, and all of that has stemmed from, you know, Rabbi Einstein. All of that has stemmed from him, and he's made it possible for us to be where we are today. And you know, the faith that we have in our religion keeps us strong as a family, I think. Even though we aren't very good about going to temple, quote unquote, we live a Jewish life every single day because of the environment that we've created for ourselves and created for our children.
It's my privilege to introduce Cantor Natalie Young. She is an award-winning composer whose music is sung and performed in Jewish communities throughout the world. She is one of the leading musical voices of Orange County, proudly serving as cantor of Temple Bethel in Aliso Viejo. Natalie has released 3 albums of original music: Carry Me, Natalie Young Standing on the Shoulders, and Soul Spark. She also happens to be married to Rabbi David Young, who, as you know, has been privileged to be the successor to Rabbi Stephen Einstein at Congregation B'nai Tzedek in Fountain Valley. Most importantly, for me, Cantor Young grew up in my congregation, Kehillat Israel in Pacific Palisades, and I have known and loved her entire life. Enjoy this amazing song she wrote as a tribute to Rabbi Einstein, Be the Light, Cantor Natalie Young.
Be the light inside the darkness, be the hope, burning bright into the night, be the voice for those who cannot raise it, be the one who leads the way through the world's darkest days, be the light, be the light, be the light. When days feel long and all that's left inside you are darkest days, reach for the light to guide you. The miracle of change begins with sparks of light we find within that shine. If we come close together, we will see a people strong who share humanity. inside the darkness be the hope, burning bright into the night, be the voice for those who cannot raise it, be the one who leads the way through the world's darkest days, be the light, be the light, be the light. Be the light. Be the
And now I'd like to introduce Rabbi David N. Young, the Rabbi of Congregation B'nai Tzedek, fabulous congregation founded by Rabbi Einstein, along with 3 of his congregants, who will share their memories of Rabbi Einstein, followed by 2 former students, Sharon Haber and Michelle Nassau. Enjoy.
Yes, in July 1976, 11 families gathered in our home with the purpose of forming a new synagogue, and we chose Rabbi Einstein to be our spiritual leader. So one of the many organizational meetings we had when we were starting the congregation, we were trying to decide what our name was. Everybody decided that it would be B'nai Tzedek, but we didn't know what it would be before that, because every other congregation in Orange County at that time was temple this and temple that. But Rabbi Einstein just decided we should call our congregation B'nai Tzedek, because that would put us first in the phone book.
His vision for the congregation was that it would be a place of warmth and friendship where everyone would feel they belonged, and a place where all ages could study and learn the heritage of our faith, enabling us to live more meaningful lives. For 36 years, Stephen and I were fortunate to accompany Rabbi Einstein as he developed B'nai Tzedek into one of the prominent Jewish establishments in Orange County.
Well, I met Rabbi Einstein when I was just 9 years old, and one of the pleasures I had in a less formal environment was to participate in our annual production of the Purim Spiel. And he always played King Ahasuerus, of course, and as with all low budget productions, we needed to give him a golden scepter. So not having any money, we spray painted a plunger gold, and he carried around the golden plunger for all the years that he played the king. And when he retired, we presented it to him, and it is now mounted in his home in the place of honor in the bathroom.
I met Rabbi Einstein through my sister, Maddie Gordon of blessed memory, and was fortunate to be a member for quite a long time. As part of the retirement committee, we did a contest for Reb Giraffe and Mrs. Giraffe, and we were asking congregants to figure out how many giraffes Rabbi Einstein had in his office. And so you'd look around and submit, and there were over 100. It was a fun contest for one and all.
In a section of the Mishnah called Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hillel teaches, "B'makom she'ein anashim, hishtadel liot ish," which means in a place where there are no people, strive to be one. In other words, be a mensch. When you are surrounded by people who are not being mensches, you need to be one. And in a place like this Zoom call, like the people who are here to honor Rabbi Einstein this evening, we all know that in a room full of mensches, we should strive to be like Rabbi Einstein. He is a mensch above mensches. He is a mensch who raises menschen. Lots of other people striving to do good based on his example. I'm so proud to be his successor rabbi at Congregation B'nai Tzedek, so honored to be his colleague and I hope he feels as I do, blessed to be his friend.
Rabbi has a very gentle humor. He's not a stand-up comedian, but he finds humor in life and uses it to bring life to a lesson or a service. I enjoyed his modern English translations of Torah that he occasionally delivered. Okay. Sure. This has nothing to do with the class or conversion, but it was shooting Slivovitz with the rabbi and the educator after evening board meetings. I suppose it was our trips to Israel. We took 3 congregational trips to Israel during from 2005 until 2012. And so we had made some good memories there.
My favorite memory of Rabbi Einstein is without a doubt his rendition of Vishamru. Any member of CBT who's been a member for a while cannot possibly hear Vishamru and not think of Rabbi Einstein. He not only gets into it musically, but like his whole body gets into it. And it's this big like, Vishamru, and the talit is flying, and it's just this fabulous thing, right? And then someday you hear it somewhere else and you're like, is that Vishamru? And that's when you realize that no one Vishamrus like Rabbi Einstein Vishamrus.
Those are amazing stories. I have to say that golden plunger is precious. I hope you always look to it for inspiration. And I love the story about how it needed to be congregation B'nai Tzedek, so you could be up at the top of the phone book. And if you don't know what a phone book is, go ask your grandparent. And the flying talit image was beautiful. So we now have a roast from Rabbi Larry Goldmark, a longtime friend of Rabbi Steve's. Rabbis Larry and Steve met at Camp Hess Kramer when Larry was the senior rabbinic student, and Steve was the junior rabbinic student. As par czar, Larry has checked in on fellow rabbis and has been an unofficial guide to numerous rabbinical students. We'll also hear from a former student of Rabbi Steve's, Jacob Gonzalez, and our own executive director, Dr. Muriel Dance, will speak and talk about the impact of Rabbi Steve's work on her personally and on the direction charted for the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din.
It's a great pleasure for me to share with you a story or two about my friend and colleague, Steve Einstein. Steve has tremendous number of abilities, but one of the things you don't know is that he's also an inventor. He invented a new verb for the English language, and that verb is to rabbi. Steve loves to do anything he can to further the cause of Judaism and to be a role model to rabbis all over the country, if not the world. To rabbi, that is Steve Einstein. In the year 2002, it was my great pleasure as the executive director of PAR, the Pacific Association of Reform Rabbis, to install Steve as its president. And so during this installation service, I tried to figure what would be the most interesting thing that we could do uniquely Steve. And so what we're able to do is to have 4 senior staff members of the Hilton Hotel in Palm Springs, where we have our annual convention and have had for 30 years, 4 members of the senior staff come forward and talk about their relationship to Steve. The first was the general manager of the hotel, Mr. Dada, who came forward, and I asked him a simple question: where did you meet Rabbi Einstein? And he said, I met him on the streets of my hometown, Karachi, Pakistan. And he said to me, Rabbi Einstein guaranteed that if Mr. Dada converted to Judaism, he, Mr. Dada, would become the general manager of a fabulous hotel in Palm Springs, California. And he, Mr. Dada, accepted. And then I called forward a wonderful lady who said to me, in answer to my question, where did you meet Rabbi Einstein? And Mary said to me, I met him on the streets of my hometown, Dublin, Ireland. And he said to me, if you convert to Judaism, you'll become the head housekeeper of a wonderful hotel. And the same is true for the director of sales in Boston and the director of food and beverage someplace in California. They all converted to Judaism because Steve Einstein guaranteed them success. And so the next time you come to Palm Springs and you come upon the Hilton Hotel, remember to mention the name Steve Einstein and you'll get a fabulous rate. So mazel tov to you, Steve. Keep up the good work.
Rabbi Einstein, congratulations. The honor, the recognition is very well deserved. Mazel tov. I love you. We love you. Many thanks for everything that you've done for us and continue to do, not just for me and my family, but for the Jewish community. I know through my lifetime, but I'm thinking specifically about my career. I've interacted with many community leaders as a lawyer, and most folks where I think it's appropriate to raise your name because they might know you, they do. And everyone that I have talked to has had a genuinely instant positive response to your name, what you stand for, what you've accomplished. You've impacted so many in such a positive way. So thank you. Congratulations. Much love. Thank you, Rabbi Einstein.
Hello, I'm Muriel Dance. I want to tell you about my first meeting with Rabbi Steve, then about my deep personal connection to his work, and finally, how he has helped shape the future direction of the Sandra Caplan Community Bet Din. When I took the position as executive director, my first responsibility was to attend the Pacific Association Reform Rabbis Conference in Palm Springs. Rabbi Steve made a breakfast date with me on the very first day of the conference. He greeted me with his big smile under his perky newsboy cap and sat down, asked questions, and listened. After breakfast, he introduced me to other rabbis, so I would feel comfortable in this new setting. As I've deepened my knowledge of Rabbi Steve through working on this 2021 Gala, I have connected more personally. In the 1970s, when Steve was welcoming prospective converts, I called a local liberal rabbi in Colorado to make an appointment. When I got there, I explained about a significant man in my life who was deeply identified as a Jew. After 3 years, I had decided to explore for myself what was so powerful about Judaism. The rabbi in turn told me a story. When my son first started dating, I told him, always ask the girl if she's Jewish before you kiss her. That was a blow. I thanked the rabbi for his time and left. This slowed my path to Judaism by several years, and I was to be rejected 2 more times by the Orthodox community. I have recently wondered how my path would have been different if Rabbi Steve had answered my call. And Rabbi Einstein upheld me yet again. What excited me about my new position was challenging the governors of the board to think about what could outreach, a founding principle of our organization, mean for a rabbinical court for conversion. The suggestions I made were rejected by the governors as not appropriate. Rabbi Steve said, the governors must meet Arlene Chernow. She will help us explore what outreach could mean for a Beit Din. She initiated a conversation among the governors that resulted in offering virtual workshops that address the converts' unique needs during this major transition. We started a conversion mentoring program to support candidates after the initial ritual is over and as they make a transition into a fuller Jewish life in congregations. We are also exploring how we can be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Thank you, Rabbi Steve, for leading the way again.
It has been a privilege for me to be one of the co-chairs of this gala, both because of my enormous respect and admiration for Rabbi Einstein and all the remarkable work that he has done throughout his incredible 50-year career, as well as my profound gratitude for the very existence, literally, of the Sandra Caplan Beit Din. So now I need your help. This Beit Din is a unique and very special place where Reform, Reconstructionist, conservative, and non-denominational rabbis have joined together to create one supportive and nurturing community for all those who wish to become part of Jewish civilization. What makes us special is that the very existence of this Beit Din communicates to every candidate that there is more that unites us than there is that divides us. And when they become Jewish, they are welcome in all of our streams of Jewish life equally. You've already seen and you've already heard the profound impact that not only Rabbi Einstein, but we as a Beit Din have been privileged to have on so many candidates from every conceivable background. But still, we literally need your support so that we can continue to serve every potential candidate. Please support the Beit Din. Go to our website, donate what you are able so that we can continue to be the warm and loving and welcoming community that every potential Jew by choice deserves. Rabbi Mordecai Caplan once wrote, "It's not what is learned by heart that counts, but what the heart learns." We at the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din are committed to opening our hearts to all those who wish to join with us and all the Jewish people as one. So I thank you in advance for supporting the Beit Din, for being here today, and continuing to help us to continue with this sacred work that has been for Rabbi Einstein and so many of us a lifelong passion. Thank you.
The Jewish tradition wants us to welcome people who want to convert to Judaism. Bamidbar Rabbah, one of the books of the classic rabbinic tradition, says this: "The Holy One, blessed be He, loves proselytes exceedingly. We likewise should show favor to the proselyte who left his family, his father's house, his people, and all the Gentile peoples of the world and came to us. He therefore deserves special protection." Rabbi Stephen Einstein is an exemplar of that to a T. For 50 years, he has been welcoming people who want to be part of the Jewish community into the fold. He started when he was a rabbinical student. Since then, he has taught more than 2,000 students who have now become Jews. He has written 2 books that have been the basis of curricula for teaching people to become Jewish. He served on the board of the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din, which is devoted to helping people become Jewish, and has been its Sgan Rosh Beit Din, fulfilling the position of Rabbi Richard Levy, alav hashalom, who was one of the founders of that Beit Din. And he recently has helped reshape our policy on Hebrew names for people who are converting to Judaism, and has identified a new place for people to convert to Judaism using and immerse into the waters of the mikvah in Orange County to complement the one that we have now in Los Angeles County. For all of these wonderful things, the Sandra Caplan Community Beit Din has decided to name our scholarship fund the Rabbi Stephen Einstein Scholarship Fund, so that anybody who is interested in converting to Judaism will not have money in his or her way. And the money that we are raising from this gala will be devoted to that fund. So in light of the wonderful, mellow, smart, moral, Jewishly devoted, simply lovely guy that Rabbi Stephen Einstein is, I thought that for a mellow fellow, I would toast you with some Merlot and say, thank you, Steve, for being the person you are and for helping so many people discover the richness of our own faith. Mazel tov, Steve. Oh, that was good.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Rebecca Einstein Shore, and I had the privilege of serving Congregation B'nai Tzedek in Fountain Valley, California, alongside Rabbi Stephen J. Einstein, my dad. Ever since I was young, Monday nights were intro nights. Every week, my dad would return home elated, having spent time answering questions, sharing his love and knowledge of Judaism, and meeting people wherever they happened to be on their Jewish journey. His passion for and dedication to outreach has been a model for me and for so many of our colleagues. Whenever I've had the opportunity to teach an intro class or to work with a candidate towards conversion, I've jumped at it, because what he has always taught me is so true, that the most powerful moment as a rabbi is bringing someone into the people Israel. And so it is my honor to introduce you to my father, my rabbi, Rabbi Stephen J. Einstein.
This honor today, I want all of you to know, is very meaningful to me. It truly is. I appreciate the kind words that have been spoken, most especially because all the people who spoke are people that I hold in very high esteem. I do have to mention my teacher, David Allison. My only disappointment, David, is that you didn't cry, but I sure did. And to those 2 wonderful, creative artists, dear friends of mine, Amy Robinson Katz and cantor Natalie Miriam Young, who created the most beautiful songs honoring me and speaking to my heart, I truly thank you. And I want to thank Muriel Dance, our incredible executive director, and the team. It took really a whole team to put together this amazing gala. I'm celebrating a half century in the rabbinate, and surely this is a time for reflection. I have been primarily a congregational rabbi. And the reason is, I think of the title of that well-known book on the shtetl, Life is with People, and truly life is with people. And rabbis are given the privilege of sharing life with the people as they share their lives with us. I've also been, to a large extent, a community rabbi, having been involved and continue to be involved in so many organizations within the Jewish community and the general community. But of course, a major focus of my rabbinate has surely been outreach. As Rabbi Ellenson pointed out, outreach goes right back to the beginning, to Abraham and Sarah. For them, their mishpacha was not only their sons, but the Torah says it was the souls that they made in Haran. And our rabbis of blessed memory said, what does this mean? The souls that they made. And the rabbis say, they taught introduction to Judaism. They were bringing people under the divine wings. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when he led the people out of Mitzrayim, did not lead only the descendants of Abraham, but along with them was the Erev Rav, so many more who joined. And we all know that passage in Deuteronomy where it says, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai Elohechem. All of you are standing before the eternal your God this day, those who are here and those who are not here. And our rabbis again ask the question, how can those who are not here be here? And their conclusion was, all of us, all who would ever be part of the Jewish people, we all stood together at Sinai. You know, for a long time, I thought, that's a really nice midrash. And then it really hit me. As I worked with and talked with and got to know so many people, I just knew that we did stand together at Sinai. You know, every Monday evening from September 1976 through June 2017, with a few weeks off for vacations, I was teaching Introduction to Judaism, a community-wide course. And I would often say to the students, my two favorite times of the week are Monday night and Shabbat. My encounter with literally thousands of students and hundreds whom I directly mentored toward conversion was life-enhancing. I think it was life-enhancing for them, but I will tell you for certain it was life-enhancing for me. When I began teaching the class, I met with my rabbi and mentor, Rabbi Samson H. Levy of blessed memory. Rabbi Levy and Rabbi Albert M. Lewis, also of blessed memory, had begun the Introduction to Judaism class in Los Angeles in the 1950s. And Rabbi Levy said this to me: for an instructor of Introduction to Judaism, you don't just teach Torah. You must strive to be Torah. Every day we thank God for the mitzvah of Torah, lilmod ulilamed, to learn and to teach. And every teacher knows that the enterprise is a two-way street. As our sages taught us, I've learned much from my colleagues, much from my teachers, a great deal from my colleagues. I found this to be so true. But most of all have I learned from my students. I do need to say a couple of words about the Sandra Caplan Community Bet-In, with which I've been associated since its beginning. And I must mention the people I call the two Nelsons. Now, why do I call them the two Nelsons? I'm talking about Rabbi Richard N. Levy of blessed memory and Rabbi Elliot N. Dorff, Lihi Badei L'chaim. You notice the middle initial N. I discovered that they shared much in common. One of the things they shared was a middle name, Nelson. These were two giants of Judaism of our era, one in the Reform movement, the other in the conservative movement. They were the ones who came up with this idea of a community bet in. For you see, when somebody becomes Jewish, the person is not just joining a synagogue or affiliating with a movement, but is becoming part of Am Yisrael. And the Sandra Caplan Community Bet Din is the finest model of Klal Yisrael, the totality of the Jewish people. For myself and for all who are engaged in this sacred work, I proclaim, Ashrenu, Ma Tov Chalkenu, Ma Na'im Goralenu, U'ma Yafa Yerushatenu. How happy are we? How good is our portion? How lovely is our lot? And how beautiful is our heritage? Toda Rabba.
Beautiful. I'm just trying to keep you.
I know, yeah.
Rabbi Einstein, it is truly a pleasure to be part of your Gala celebration, honoring the work you've done in your many years in the rabbinate. In particular, your willingness to make Judaism such a lively and open tent to everyone who's interested in being part of this people, joining themselves with this tradition and this beautiful fate. So thank you, Rabbi, for all you've done and all you'll continue to do. And in your honor, I'd like to read a piece called Affirmation of Faith. Affirmation of Faith. Hear, O Israel, the covenant we made together on Sinai is a pledge for all time, a vow for the ages to do and to listen, to teach and to learn, with the fullness of our hearts from the depths of our souls and the strength of our being, binding ourselves to Adonai, our God, with Torah and mitzvot, binding our lives to each other with righteousness and charity, so that blessings will rain down from heaven to feed our hearts and fill our land with God's abundant gifts. The brilliance and wonder that flow from service to God's holy word, in remembrance of creation and our liberation from slavery, declaring throughout the generations, God is one, God is one, God is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Wow. As you've heard, Rabbi Steve lives Torah. He worked locally in his own congregation and taught his classes in Orange County. He works regionally, supporting the Sandra Caplan community, Beitin of Southern California, and he's worked nationally in his outreach work for the reform movement. Thank you for coming and joining and honoring Rabbi Steve Einstein through your presence and financial resources. Please stay on Zoom for our thank you slides. Please stay on for our web tribute book and a chance to chat with Rabbi Einstein directly. Toda rabah, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on learning and loving.